I've been wanting to build a big medieval dragon castle siege for a while now, and so today we're going to be doing just that. But before we can get to building the battlefield and the castle, we first need to assemble our two armies. And very quickly, if you want to win a free copy of this Dragon Mountain Lego set, I'll be announcing the winner around the 10th of September, then all you have to do to enter is subscribe to the channel and comment down on this video. So in the last Dragons episode, I built over 100 medieval fantasy minifigures, and what better to bring dragons into things than the Targaryen Civil War. You see, in this medieval Lego world, the old King Viserys has died, leaving the kingdom in conflict between two factions of his family. Each side claims the right to rule, and so begins the Dance of the Dragons. The king's eldest daughter, Rhaenyra, is the rightful queen, but she is exiled from King's Landing and forced back to her family home at Dragonstone. There, she must prepare to retake the throne as her most loyal supporters begin to join her call. She already has the support of Rhaenys and the second biggest dragon, Meleys, and the king of Driftmark, Corlys Velaryon. Then, her son Jace persuades Cregan of House Stark and his Longbeard warriors to join them, and eventually, Daemon Targaryen turns up with some dragon knights, which means they are finally ready to take back the crown. So for the minifigures, I've tried to add in a fair amount of variation for all the weaponry and the helmets. For example, we have 4 different types of footmen with spears, bows, swords, and axes. The archers are wearing kettle helms, while some of the warriors have dragon helmets. They all use Lego castle parts, which work really well with the red dragon printing, and you can even reverse the torsos to get a lower rank of soldier. To go along with the regular footmen, we have some heavily armoured knights and captains with bassinet helmets and their own unique swords, and my absolute favourite unit that I made has to be this House Stark battle pack, which includes greybeards and bannermen. They use a really classy custom medieval print, and are kind of what made me want to build House of the Dragon armies in the first place. Okay, so before we can build the castle and also assemble our green army, we have got to get started building the terrain for our battlefield. I started by designing a battleground based off Season 2, Episode 4, The Battle at Rook's Rest. Here, we see the Black Dragon loyalists defending a small castle, which is built onto cliffs overlooking the ocean. On the land, the Green's army marches out of the forest and into the open to attack those castle walls. So once I'd ordered all the parts, I began laying down a bunch of dirt to represent the forest, and then I switched to sand green for the open grass battlefield, as I think these colours contrast really nicely together and create a really natural kind of setting. Next step was to lay the foundations for the castle. I wanted it to look like the castle is built into the cliff slightly, so I used dark grey plates and tiles to show the rocky landscape and left some exposed studs for the castle to sit on. Behind the castle lies the sea, and while a whole base plate would have been better for showing how big the ocean is, I think capturing the waves on the shore with these trans blue tiles does a great job of just suggesting that the sea is there without using too many expensive parts. And actually, that was my whole approach to this battle mat. If I had a bigger budget, I would have added sloping hill sections, like in my Amon Hen diorama design, but I wanted this battle mat to be accessible in terms of building and also be customizable, so that anyone could take this design and build their own battleground on top. So with the battle mat done, it's time to add in the trees and siege defenses. For the forest area, I added in these 2 modified tree designs. I wanted to use the ones I designed for my Doors of Durin diorama because the roots look really natural, but they ended up taking up too much space, and so I used this design from the Endor Speeder Chase diorama. It's not perfect, but the tall trunks give a nice scale against the minifigures and also look pretty similar to the trees we see on screen. I then decorated the forest floor with some different plant pieces, and while I would have liked to make it more detailed, I think it represents the forest nicely without overdoing things. So now, before we build the siege weapons and the Black Dragon's castle, let's take a look at the Green Dragon army that we'll be attacking. First up is the young king Aegon and his brother Aemond. The young king rides his dragon Sunfire, while Aemond rides the largest dragon, which is called Vhagar, and we also have their sister Helena and their mother Alicent Hightower. Alicent was married to the old King Viserys, which is why her family claims the right to rule, and her father Otto Hightower and brother Gawain Hightower also support them with both their sword and advice. Joining them is the Kingsguard, led by the dangerous Sir Criston Cole, and House Lannister also pledges their Golden Lion warriors. For the Green's army, I also wanted to show that there's lots of variation. So we have this unit of footmen with spears and bows, which mainly use 2010 Kingdoms Lego parts. Then we have a unit of Hightower Knights, which carry flails and printed Hightower shields, along with some heavily armoured Green Dragon Knights, carrying the classic dragon shields. There probably won't be space, but I've also built some Baratheon soldiers and assorted liege lords to show that the Green army is a little bigger than the Black's army. Once the forest was ready for the Green Dragon forces, I moved onto the grassy battlefield. I wanted to keep things simple here, so the focus would be on the minifigures and the action, so I just added a couple more smaller slopes and some plant pieces, mainly because this is where we get to add in the siege weapons and defences. Now with both armies assembled, we just need to add in the castle. Because of space and budget, I had to create something that would fit a 32 by 32 base plate, but also give a sense of the castle at Rook's Rest, and so I ended up designing it based around Lego Helm's Deep. And I built the main central castle section and then two smaller side walls. The main section is made up of arrow slit windows, and I've also added some masonry bricks for the stonework. I then used some sand green like 1x1 bricks to suggest that the castle has been there a long time and some of the stone has been weathered. The smaller wall sections are pretty simple, as they really just act to extend the castle walls to the edge of the scene. These all slot onto some exposed studs that are built onto the battle map below, and then I built some supports and extension to the upper wall level to give more space at the top. I wanted to make the castle bigger, but this is what I ended up with, and I think next time I will add another base plate so the castle and the ocean can be extended. There is a little bit of a sense of an interior with space for a couple of minifigures and weapon storage, but the focus is really on the front of the castle and the walls, where the black dragons can defend against the oncoming attacks. Which means it is now time for the best part of building a mock, which is adding in all the minifigures. First, let's add the black dragon armies to defend the scene. The walls are being defended by many archers and spearmen, and they are all being commanded by Sir Simon Staunton, whose family owns this castle. Outside the walls, we have Daemon Targaryen and his Dragon Knights, who have chosen to stand and fight before their castle walls. And while this is not technically accurate to the show, it lets us include all the other minifigures that I built for this project. So obviously, Cregan Stark and his long beards chose to fight out front and stand alongside Daemon, although Cregan definitely doesn't trust this crazy blonde-haired Targaryen prince. The attacking armies march in from the forest and are being led by Sir Criston Cole and Gawain Hightower, who ride on horseback. The Hightower and Green Dragon footmen follow behind in formation, and Tywin Lannister also rides on horseback and is followed by his Golden Lions. Of course, I also added in the extra minifigures that I made for the Greens, with Otto commanding from the side, and he also brought his grandson Daeron to learn some battle strategy. And even Alicent has shown up with her knife. Archers are raining arrows and the blacks are holding strong, but when they all hear the sounds of roaring coming from the ocean, everyone knows that things are about to change. This video could never be a dragon siege without dragons. On the black side is the red dragon Meleys, who flies over the ocean to defend the castle at Rook's Rest. Then we have Sunfire, who flies over the forest and comes in high to attack Meleys. It was really tricky to make a support that would keep Sunfire in the air, but I finally worked out this, and I'm just waiting on the final transclear parts to make it look finished. Overall, I was really happy with how these two dragons fit into the scene, and I think they frame each other really nicely. And if you want to build your own dragon castle, then check out today's video sponsor, The Brick News, who are giving away a free copy of the new Dungeons & Dragons set and the Medieval Town Square. All the details are up on the screen, but entry does close in 7 days' time, so if you're interested, make sure to enter for yourself down at the links in the description. Now you're probably thinking, Sam, this looks pretty cool and all, but why is there a giant space in the middle of the battlefield? And that's because the only thing left to do is to turn this into a full battle scene, where we can see archers taking cover behind barricades and soldiers falling back after being burnt by dragonfire. Cregan Stark is even in a 1v1 duel with Sir Criston Cole, and Criston is already missing his arm. Gawain Hightower is leading a desperate charge of Hightower Knights against the front gate as Daemon Targaryen removes Tywin Lannister's head. And just as the Blacks' victory seems to be in hand, the mighty dragon King Vagar, serving the green dragons, appears looming over the battlefield, being ridden by Aemond Targaryen. Because of how big it is, it's pretty tricky to capture it all in one shot, so here are some battlefield close-ups and overviews. There's archers falling from the walls, while Starks and Lannisters are cutting each other down. Some casualties are already blocking up the ground, and even Corlys and his Valyrian sea warriors have turned up. From up high, the dragons can look down at all the tiny little soldiers below, and it turns out an open battlefield is the perfect place for Dragonfire. Every soldier has its own objective, and all that open space in the middle allows me to tell different stories with all the different units. I wanted my Dragon Siege to look realistic, while also having the fantasy elements and the Targaryen storyline. Now, there are a million different ways that you could set up this battlefield, and I was really proud of how it turned out. It's easily the biggest mock project that I've built, and I was pretty nervous going into it. But I want to give a quick shout out to my cousins Teddy and Wilbur, who gave me lots of advice on the minifigures and also helped me search for custom parts at the LEGO Convention Brickfest here in the UK. And also a quick shout out to Goldfire, the LEGO Castle King, who's been a big inspiration with these medieval videos. Anyways, let me know what you think of this epic Dragon Siege down in the comments, and of course don't forget to subscribe, but as always, thank you guys for watching.